So, it's been a while. We'll keep this short and simple. I don't want to keep you guys for too long. We're just going to have a quick little Danknet fireside chat. There's a couple things I want to touch on as we get back into the swing of things. Namely, where I've been and where we're going. Tons of you guys have reached out and asked me basically what the hell's going on. It's been a whole year since I uploaded anything new. Don't worry, I didn't quit. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not dead either. I am still grieving about the loss of my lard. YouTube is just not the same place without him.
Good morning, I'm not doing YouTube anymore. I'm done with it. Thanks to the trolls for ruining it for me. I'm doing a movie. YouTube's done.
But we must soldier on. Which brings me to the topics at hand. What the hell's going on with the lack of content over here? Well, in simplest terms, I've been going through a bit of a transitional period in my life over the last year, and I just had some real life responsibilities take center stage. And no, not that kind of transition. Get your minds out of the gutter, we're here to have a serious talk.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
The real reason is actually a lot less interesting. Well, there wasn't really a single specific reason, just a couple things that compounded and left me with less available time. That's more or less the TLDR of the situation. Feel free to skip ahead to the next part if that's all you wanted to know. But a lot of people have reached out to me and shown some curiosity, so I will fill you in. I owe you at least that. So without boring you with too many meaningless details, I have a disabled family member who's 100% dependent on others for care. They require a wheelchair and they have to travel often for medical reasons. They live with another member of my family who's the main caregiver, and once the lockdown started, I moved in with them to give them a hand with things during the global shit show. A lot of out-care resources and social services have been negatively impacted the last year, and simple daily tasks can become nearly impossible without some help. To give an example, we had a whole month in the middle of the winter where the area went into lockdown. We get brutal winters up here, by the way. This year wasn't that bad, but 2 years ago we had a week straight of minus 40. Anyway, during our winter lockdowns, only essential businesses were open with minimal capacity, meaning you had to wait outside in line, which doesn't seem like such a burden at first, but when you're by yourself taking care of a dependent family member, standing outside with a wheelchair in sub-zero temperatures for upwards of 40 minutes just to get into the bank isn't really a reasonable or achievable thing. It's probably very similar for parents with young children. Daycares were also hit, and if you're a family with a young toddler, one of you probably ended up staying at home. The same issues would apply to this situation. I don't really have any kids myself, but I could see how difficult it would be for a single parent just to take them to the grocery store during this hell. I myself was in a pretty decent position to lend a hand, so that's kind of just what I did. At the beginning of last year when all this shit started happening, I was in between jobs and kind of just living off my savings for a bit. Before the world went into the trash, I was planning on actually taking a few months off everything and plan to move to somewhere closer to the border. But I threw that all on hold for a bit last year, and I just looked at this whole situation as an opportunity to spend more time and reconnect with some family for a few months. But as the impact of the lockdown started to become more apparent, I really started to worry. The area I live in was hit pretty hard economically because of the global shit show we're currently going through. I'm in the northern section of Canada. It's all small towns where I'm at. All of them are like under 10k. Believe it or not, I haven't seen a Walmart in 2 years. A lot of small towns up here don't really have things like that. Instead, we have shit like privately owned stores and a bunch of independent small businesses. Or had. Because while the whole small business sector is pretty much destroyed at this point.
Gosh, we're deeply worried by what we're seeing. CFIB's collecting data almost every week from small business owners, and the impact is massive. For many businesses, they haven't even gotten over wave 1 of COVID-19, let alone deal with the impact of wave 2. At this point, only about 70% of businesses across Canada are fully open. Only about 40% of them have got all their staff back. And most importantly, only 30% of small businesses in all sectors of the economy, all regions, are earning revenues close to their normal levels. 70% of businesses are underwater. When we look at what's happening as a result of the second wave, a further 50% of businesses have said their sales have declined again in recent weeks because consumers are staying home, whether they're allowed to shop or get out or not. And the one that worries me the most, 37% of businesses, nearly 40%, say that they are losing money every day they are open. The big question for all of us is how many more days can those businesses stay open before they have to wind it up altogether?
Just on the consumer and entertainment side of things, 2 years ago we had like 25 or so small businesses in the area, a couple hobby shops, a handful of retail stores, about 10 or so bars or restaurants, all mom and pop startups, and easily 75% are gone now. They got hit hard last summer, and they just didn't make it through the winter. The restrictions have made it impossible to operate. How do you run a gym, a theater, or a bar if you can't even have people gather inside? How do you do a dine-in restaurant? You don't. There's also no way to skirt the rules and set up anything outside either. Sure, you can have more people together, but it's also minus 30 with 5 feet of snow for half the year. So that's not really a viable option either. Canada was, and still is, in a very strange place at the moment.
In Ontario, they've created this incredibly unlevel playing field where it's essentially now illegal to sell a book in an independent bookstore with 5 customers, but completely fine to sell the bookstore with 100 other people breathing over your neck at the big table in Costco. The rules in Ontario make no sense, and they're going to kill thousands and thousands of businesses in this province, in Toronto and Peel, because they have no avenue to try to eke out a living over the coming months.
I'm a huge advocate of small businesses, and I even have a few close friends who are owners themselves, and they've had their whole lives upended over the last several months by the ridiculous rules and uneven standards that seem to get worse over time. I'm sure each of you guys have horror stories the same. These aren't isolated problems. Well, I don't think they are, at least. Either way, when the first run of lockdowns happened up here, only essential businesses were open and a lot of people were laid off or voluntarily decided to stay home and just collect CERB. Kind of like pretend it's a free vacation. Not the case for everyone, but it's definitely the case for some people. Well, when things started opening up again, I took the free time I had and I jumped right back into the workforce. Luckily, I got a job that was flexible, minimally affected by the lockdowns, and allowed me to balance my family responsibilities, which in retrospect, I'm glad I did because it doesn't seem like anything is getting better anytime soon.
Prepared. I'm asking you, don't make plans for Easter. That's what I can tell you. I won't hesitate to lock things down if we have to. I did it before. I'll do it again. Nothing's more important than our health. The economy, yes, it's important, but that can wait. Without people's health, we won't have an economy.
I did go into some detail on Patreon before I nuked it, but seeing as everything was kind of still unfolding and my plans were changing on the daily, I didn't really have a specific time frame that I'd be back in a proper routine. And when that became apparent, I just closed the Patreon altogether. I always looked at it as a way for you guys to help support the channel. Not necessarily me, I'm good, that's why I work and probably always will. All the contributions I received from there just kind of ended up getting reinvested into the channel through equipment, software, and hardware. If I wasn't planning on making content for a long period of time, then it would have just been me pocketing people's money during a pandemic while I sort my real life stuff out, and that just didn't really sit well with me. Some of you are probably asking why I don't just do YouTube full time and turn this into a job, and if I'm being real, it has crossed my mind, but there is no stability here. Not one bit. And that, in and of its own, is a no-go for me and is pretty much the final driving force in that decision. Especially now. YouTube and mainstream Google-ruled internet is way too rampant with censorship and deplatforming. And that's coming from someone who doesn't even make political content. I don't even really subscribe to any political ideology personally. To me, it's all pawns on a chessboard, trapped in a never-ending cycle designed to distract and divide, while what we truly need is mature discussion. Which, can't really happen if everyone that holds a spicy opinion gets exiled to the realm of all tech. It's just unnecessary division and results in echo chambers. The sheer uncertainty of this platform, and the current internet in general, is not something I ever want to have to rely on. I'm way too much of a control freak. Plus, I don't really like to mix work and play. When I started making content, I never intended to make this into a career. Never ever did I ever think for a moment that I'd be near 100,000 subscribers. At first I just wanted to make a couple videos about some people online I thought were crazy or interesting. It's pretty much the same stuff I'd sit around and show a couple friends for a laugh. But as more people started checking out my content and throwing around some suggestions, it became quite fun and rewarding. Everything I've learned over the last 3 years, from video editing to research, has pretty much come from you guys one way or another. Hell, even a large chunk of the videos I've covered have come from people reaching out to me with an interesting topic. Going from covering topics I was familiar with to covering something I've never heard of and diving down a new rabbit hole has been one of the aspects of this I've probably enjoyed the most. Not only does it make me a better researcher, but it also causes me to want to take a deeper look into things that I probably wouldn't have before. It's also taught me a lot about perspective, group behavior. There's countless things I've learned from doing this. And that's without even mentioning the fact that I became a pretty decent editor and graphic designer along the way. The entire process of making content has become one of my most valued hobbies. And it's something I'm going to keep doing, but there just may be times when I'm absent for a while. But rest assured, I've always got something in the works. And we should probably talk about that for a moment, because that's pretty much what you're here for, really. And I've got something big incoming. The next video. While video is a bit of an understatement, it's more of a research project in video format. Let me give you a little backstory here. Fall of last year, I was planning on getting back into the swing of things, and I was molding over some topics for a short video I was going to upload to my second channel. That channel is more for serious videos, there isn't really a set theme for it, and its basic formula is actually very similar to what we do on this channel. People have suggested I should just move everything from there over to here, and that would probably work, but to be honest, the only reason I haven't is even though the format is similar, the topics that we cover over there are more true crime related, and I wanted to keep them separate because the subject matter is about real life crimes and even murderers. It's a little different than the goofballs from the internet we cover over here. The first one was on Lee Murray, an MMA fighter who masterminded one of the biggest heists on record. That one was kind of tame, but the other two were part of a series I was planning on starting called Walking Free, basically about convicted criminals, primarily murderers, who are currently walking around free in society. Vincent Lee was the notorious Greyhound killer in Canada, and Tagawa is an infamous cannibal from Japan. Both have committed horrendous crimes, and for various reasons they find themselves free in society. The subject matter gets pretty intense. This project I'm talking about, although not as gruesome as the latter, was originally planned for that channel because it's more in the realm of true crime than internet culture. But things change, and this kind of became less about creating content and more about the importance of the story itself. This next subject has not been covered as extensively as it should have been. Now, a few of you may be familiar with what I'm going to be talking about. There are hundreds of articles covering different aspects of this person, especially as of late, but that's just all the tip of one gigantic iceberg. No one has covered this the way I'm about to. And like I've mentioned in numerous videos on this channel, the Dank channel isn't really about serious shit. We're just here to laugh at some obscure internet personalities or crazy situations. There aren't really any real world implications to my content. This one, it's got the potential to rock the boat. I'm going to be real with you. Different aspects of this involve some pretty high level people, like members of the media, government officials, a couple millionaires, maybe a world renowned scientist or two. And no, in case you're wondering, it's got nothing to do with the current global situation. I'm sure we've all had enough of that at this point. I'm going to premiere it live and hope for the best, but you're going to have to grab it while it's hot. I'll do my best to follow the rules, but I can't guarantee anything with this one. Also, if you're a traveling journalist just popping in, feel free to take this and run with it. Hell, if you're a small YouTuber or anyone for that matter, if you want to build off my stuff, you're more than welcome. Do whatever you gotta do. The more eyes on this, the better. I gotta prepare you guys a little bit. It's gonna be different in scale and severity, and it's also been months in the making, and even required some assistance from outside sources. I've enlisted the help of another creator I've mentioned on this channel before to aid me in different aspects of research and fact checking. Bake Salmon from the TCAP community. Shout out to Bake, by the way. Not only did he go beyond what I ever asked him, but he's also been extremely patient with me and my work schedule. And together, we got quite a crazy story to tell you guys. This isn't about a guy with a couple thousand subs that's done some crazy shit online. This is about a man worth hundreds of millions of dollars with the real type of power and resources capable of influencing an entire country. This is a departure from the normal road on this channel. For a brief period of time, we will be leaving the world of internet culture, and I'm going to be taking you on a real life deep dive. One with criminal investigations, political corruption, bribery, extortion, double agents, Scotland Yard detectives, and one secret medical scandal that was thought to be forgotten. This is a deep dive that will undoubtedly prove or disprove one thing. Can someone like me or you, just a random shitposter who enjoys looking into obscure internet rabbit holes, translate those same skills into real life investigative research? I guess we'll find out soon.